Well, hello, retro game players. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Marcus, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make your own custom Virtual Boy cases. So get your red visor going and get ready to step into the third dimension. So for today's soundtrack to accompany the video, I wanted something that was futuristic, but yet had a retro feel to it. And I gotta tell you what, my buds over at Space Lab 9 came through. They sent me this complimentary LP record, and I gotta say, you guys, this is perfect for today's video. It is going to be, we're gonna be listening to this, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, Claptastic Voyage. Now, I actually beat Borderlands 1 and 2. I've never played this game, so I'm actually pretty interested, but I've listened to this soundtrack, and I gotta say, it's pretty awesome. So thank you so much for sending this to me, you guys. They just sent it to me last week, and I knew it was gonna be a perfect soundtrack after I started listening to it. I'm like, oh, this is screaming retro vibes and some cool synthwave sounds. It's by Jasper, who's very well known as far as soundtracks go. So anyway, I love this artwork too. It just folds up. Beautiful, beautiful record, beautiful art, and of course it's got Claptrap on the front, and yeah, anyway, I'm excited. So let's get into the Virtual Boy custom cases. Now you might be thinking, well, Marcus, there's only a few Virtual Boy games that was ever made. That is very true. I have to tell you, I've been collecting for the Virtual Boy slowly for a while now, and it's like, it's just hard to get them in complete boxes. It's almost impossible, I would say, especially when you start getting into, better titles. It's hard to find them, in their original box with their manuals and all that. So you end up with loose games a lot. Now, I found this walkthrough online, which I'm going to link to in the description, on how to do this. So, it's really not too hard, but I thought I'd show you guys some steps that helped me along the way. So first off, you're going to want to acquire some official Nintendo Red DS cases, which I'll show that. And then once you open this up, they're like brand new, so they're a little stiff. It's got this nice red foam here, and then behind here I went ahead and put some black foam too, which is something that the example that I found below in the description was not covering. And I really like that. It actually adds a little bit of a more professional look to it. So I thought I'd explain that too. And then of course you can print your own artwork using a few different things. I will link what I found as well in the description, so you guys can download that if you want. If you want a more detailed look on how to print all this stuff, check out my video on the N64 custom cases, because that's going to be a huge amount of information for you guys if you are starting to print. So anyway, without further ado, let's dive into the how-to to do something like this. Alright, so first off, you're going to need some DS cases. Now, these are the official DS cases by Nintendo. I got them off of Nintendo's website. They come in 5-packs and also 1-packs. However, there's only black available now, so the red are sold out. You might be able to find the red somewhere else, but whatever. I'll put a link to the ones that are black. This is the foam that you want to use. 6mm is the thickness, and it actually works really well. These are sold in multi-packs. I will also put a link to get these on Amazon. But this is all you pretty much need to at least make the foam, for these cases. So once you put the foam inside, this is kind of what it looks like. I followed some instructions in the description below, and this is the way that they left them. Now, I like adding the black backing that I am going to show off here, but this is fine, So you have to cut out that cartridge area, though. You got to remove that, otherwise the Virtual Boy game will not fit. It will hit that, and you will never be able to close it. So you got to remove that, and then this piece you can remove as well if you have manuals. I don't have any Virtual Boy manuals, so I didn't need to do that. But if you want to add a manual, remove that top piece, and then it'll fit perfectly. So when removing that inside cartridge piece, basically you want to put a piece of wood or something hard that you're going to cut into in between the plastic. If you don't do that, you're going to cut through the plastic, cover piece. Now, I actually used this multi-tool or a fiend tool. It works really quickly. This is, to me, like way better than using an X-Acto knife, but you can use a razor. That's totally your call. I actually tried it once, and it was really time-consuming, and it just took me forever, honestly, to get one of these done, whereas this tool just kind of breezed through them. So with a steady hand, it really did make this process a lot easier, because this plastic is actually tougher than it looks. Also, I did wear a dust mask, so I just want to throw that out there too. It's hard to tell, but there was like dust particles flying all over the place. But yeah, just keep your steady hand going here and you'll be fine. I'm sure there's other tools you can use to remove this, but this just worked really, really well. And then at the end, you can see it just pops right out. So there's that piece, and then I just remove all these other little pieces too. This is the template that you want to make. You can make this out of cardboard. That's what I did. My template wasn't 100% correct, but I just basically traced a Virtual Boy game, made a little thumb area to pull it out with on top, and then I just laid that on the foam and traced it. So you can see from the way I'm doing this, it's not perfectly lining up, but that's okay. I measured it. It will fit once I cut it out. So I've just tracing the outside at this point, and now I'm cutting it, and basically it's going to give me a nice square. Now, each one of these foam pieces gives you 2 of the Virtual Boy backings. So remember that when ordering, that you get the right amount, because you're only going to be able to get 2 of these backings per sheet of this foam. I also like to put it in here and just make sure it fits perfectly before moving on to the next step, which is where I trace it. So I do the inside, and again, I just lay the template in there, trace the inside, with a pencil. You can use a pen if you want, but just remember that you might end up seeing that ink. So I like to use a pencil. Then what you want to do is use a ruler and an X-Acto knife, and just I use the ruler to keep it straight as I cut. Now, I'm not using it for the corners right now. I'm just doing the straight sections. So there's, 3, but it just makes it go pretty quick. So I am pushing pretty hard with my X-Acto knife, but I'm not doing the corners, as you'll see in a second. Just the straight edges. Okay, now that's done, I'm going to move on to the corners. And I kind of actually use almost like I'm throwing darts, or like, pressing in, like making dots. And that kind of works really well for these sharp corners. So I'm just kind of pressing in and turning, and then pressing in and turning. And that's how I'm making that corner. And I did that for all the corners, just kind of kept it round. I am pressing pretty hard. But as you'll see in a second, when I flip it over, it's not completely cutting through at those sections. So just do your best, and, make sure that you don't kind of slip, because obviously, that thing is pretty sharp. But once you're done, flip it over, and you can see that it's sort of outlined. But I just trace it, and it kind of comes off. Here you can see it's sticking a little bit, so I'll have to use the knife and just kind of cut through the piece of foam. This foam that I pictured does work really well. It's very resilient. So there it is inside of the case. And, not too bad. The game fits pretty good as well. I do like to kind of push it in there and make sure it's going to fit. And then this is the black foam. You'll see that it's 2mm. So I will also link this in the description. And all you have to do here, there it is, the way it looks with the black in there. Now, these are not glued down, so you're going to want to glue this down in a minute, but that's the way it basically looks. So I basically take the red foam, and I'm just going to trace it on top of the black foam. Now I just need to cut that out. This foam is also very easy to work with. Once you get it cut, it's time to glue it down. So I just used basically just super glue. You can use anything like that. And you can see I'm just putting it sort of all over the place in there. And then I'll put down the black foam first. And then press it down so it smooths out. And then now I'm gluing the red foam. Just lay it right on top. Press it down. You don't want to use too much glue because otherwise it might come up underneath where the game goes. And you don't want that. So just enough to hold it down. And then let it dry. You want to let it sit down for a while before you put your game in there. And then these are the covers. So I've printed these. I will put a link to where I printed these from. In previous videos for the N64 printing, I used the cover project. But in this case, they didn't have all the games I needed. So I had to find them. So I'll put a link to where I got them. And if you want to know how to print these, basically you want to use legal paper. And that's the big key, and then you have to find the right sizing. So I would recommend watching the N64 cover page, you know, the printing of the cases, because in that I show exactly how to set up the computer and which program to use and all that. So definitely check that out. But when I cut this, I'm just using a cutting board, paper cutting board or whatever, and it works really well. And then I just basically put it in the case. And I sometimes like to hold one end of it and make sure that that's straight. Like at the end right there, I'll pinch that and then I'll fold it. And that kind of keeps it straight. So you can see there it is in the case. Looks really sharp. Definitely looks good. Even the spine, I think, looks really cool. The back is very clear and legible. And then here's what you end up with. Basically, here's all the games laid out. I think they look really good. They definitely look good on a shelf. And just so colorful. I really like the red cases, but truthfully, if you just have the black ones, I think that'd look cool too. So, you know, I wouldn't stress too much if you can't find the red ones. But yeah, Jack Brothers, that's a cool game. I love the Virtual Boy. I seriously think that if people just played some of these games, they'd realize it's a really good system. And there's so much homebrew. So anyway, there you go, guys. That's my Virtual Boy project. Until next time, you know what to do. You keep that shit retro by playing with your Virtual Boy later on.